Ben, I completely agreed with almost everything you said. I just took it in a wider perspective. And by wider perspective, I mean that I considered stories as not just things we read in a book, but as television and movies and songs and basically anything that's a piece of literature or anything with words. And we've all known from the dozens of songs on the radio who people like Taylor Swift has gone through their life. She's gone through a lot of heartbreaks, and we identify her as someone who's kind of needy because of all the boyfriends she's had. And I just think it's really important to keep other kind of stories like television shows and movies and really anything that's on paper or can be expressed through words in mind when we talk about this. Also, when I first heard this question, I started thinking about how our identities as youth are shaped by stories, and the best example of this can be found in fairy tales. For example, fairy tales are generally happy, they end positively, the character achieves all his goals and his dreams. And if you notice, generally kids are aspiring to complete all the goals they have. Then as we get older and we start hearing more realistic stories, we start thinking, this is what life is really like. Maybe I can't be an astronaut. Stories can help us identify a person so much. For example, all we've heard about people like King Leonidas are stories that we've heard. When we're asked about what Leonidas was like, we say he was charismatic, he was a great military leader, he really was a tough person. We only know all that from stories. Stories can also give us a very one-sided perspective. Like when people think of Nazi Germany, they think of these Jew-hating, gypsy-hating, homosexual-hating, blonde, blue-eyed, loving people. But in reality, that wasn't really true. There were people like that there, but there were others who cared for these people and were living in fear in this country. Nazi Germany wasn't just one-sided. Only hearing about one side of a story, or assuming that a group can be defined in one way, will lead us to falsely identify all those involved in it. And in this way, stories can also be negative, if not told from a two-sided perspective, or even three-sided. By us sharing stories that we ourselves or others have written, we're reflecting ourselves. You can even go as far as saying as the type of stories you are reflect the type of person you are. For example, I don't think feminists particularly enjoy Twilight, but instead enjoy novels that portray strong female leads. And by understanding what we're reflecting, we understand ourselves better. By understanding who we understand our meaning and place in the world. If we keep continuing to identify ourselves through stories, we may eventually be able to understand what exactly helps define us as people. And the more we know about ourselves, the more we know about the world around us. Remember, no matter what the question, the answer is always 42.